Every day, Sam walked down the same quiet street to school. He wasn't the type to stand out in a crowd, and he liked it that way. He preferred blending in, keeping to himself, and avoiding the spotlight. His life was simple, his days predictable. But all of that changed when he started helping Lyra. Lyra was different. She wasn't like the other kids at school. She walked with a limp, always using crutches to get around. She was quiet, and while other kids often whispered behind her back, Sam noticed something about her that made him feel a strange mix of sympathy and curiosity. She was the new kid. And not just any new kid, she was different in ways that Sam couldn't quite explain. Her clothes were odd, and her eyes had a strange glow to them, something that wasn't quite right. There were rumors that she wasn't from Earth, but Sam never took them seriously. People said she was from another country, but he knew better than to believe everything he heard. It was on one of those chilly mornings in late autumn when Sam first saw her struggling with her crutches. The other kids passed her by without even glancing her way, too busy with their own lives. She was trying to walk up the school steps, her face showing a slight frown as she struggled to lift her weight. Sam had a choice. He could keep walking, pretend he didn't notice, or he could do something. Without thinking much, Sam slowed his pace and walked over to her. "Need help?" he asked quietly. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes wide for a moment. Then she nodded, a small but grateful smile on her lips. "Thank you," she said softly. From that moment on, Sam started helping her to school every day. He didn't know why he did it. It wasn't like he had many friends to begin with, and Lyra was a mystery to him. But something about her made him want to help, even though she never seemed to ask for it. Each morning, Sam would arrive a little earlier than usual, so he could walk with her. They didn't talk much at first. Lyra wasn't exactly shy, but she didn't speak much either. She seemed lost in her thoughts, often gazing up at the sky, her expression distant. Sam didn't mind the silence. He was used to it. Over time, though, he began to notice little things about Lyra that made her even more intriguing. She had a way of looking at the world, an almost otherworldly calm. She never got angry, even when things didn't go as planned. She didn't care when people whispered or pointed at her. It was like she was untouchable in a way that Sam could never be. One day, as they were walking to school, Sam asked her a question he had been thinking about for a while. "Where are you from, Lyra? You're not like the other kids." Her eyes flickered toward him, and for the first time, she seemed hesitant. But then, with a small shrug, she answered, "I'm just different. I'm not like everyone else. But that's okay." Sam didn't press her for more. He knew better than to ask questions that made people uncomfortable. But deep down, he couldn't help but wonder. Lyra's smile was always calm, her voice always soft, but there was something in her eyes that made him think she was hiding a great secret, something big. One afternoon, Sam got a chance to speak to her more. After school, as they were sitting under the large oak tree near the playground, Lyra seemed lost in thought. She was fiddling with a small glowing stone she always carried in her pocket. Sam had noticed the stone before, but never asked about it. Today, though, his curiosity got the better of him. "What's that?" he asked, pointing at the glowing stone. Lyra paused and looked at it, then at Sam. She hesitated, as if considering whether to share its significance. Then, she whispered, "It's a family heirloom. It's very important to me." Sam blinked, not sure if he understood. "A family heirloom?" he asked, unsure of what that even meant. "It's something passed down through generations," she explained, her voice quiet but steady. "It's been in my family for a long time." It's single quotes powerful. Sam didn't know what to say. He'd heard stories about powerful families, but he never imagined Lyra was part of one. She was just the girl who needed help getting to school. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized that there was something about Lyra he couldn't quite place. She was hiding something big. But whatever it was, Sam couldn't help feeling drawn to her. As the weeks passed, their friendship grew stronger. Sam started learning more about Lyra's quiet strength. She was smart, funny, and surprisingly kind. She never judged others, even when they whispered behind her back. She seemed to accept everything around her with grace and poise, as if she knew the world would never be fair, but she was okay with it. And Sam admired her for that. But still, there was a mystery surrounding her, a mystery that Sam couldn't shake. Every day, he found himself more and more intrigued by Lyra, wondering what secrets she was keeping, what her life was really like. And as their friendship grew, so did Sam's suspicion that Lyra was more than just an ordinary girl. Little did Sam know, the answers to his questions were far more incredible than he could have ever imagined. The days passed by, and with each one, Sam found himself becoming more and more curious about Lyra. She was an enigma wrapped in silence. And yet, every day, she would reveal something new. Something that made Sam question the world around him. It was a Wednesday morning when it all began. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft glow over the quiet streets. Sam had been waiting at his usual spot on the corner, the spot where he always met Lyra to walk to school together. It had become their routine, and Sam found comfort in it. He wasn't quite sure when it had happened, but he had begun looking forward to their time together more than anything else. As he watched the empty street, his thoughts wandered. What was it about Lyra that made her so different? She was quiet, sure, but there was something else, something almost mystical about her. It wasn't just the way she looked at the world, but the way she carried herself. Sam had seen her face light up when she smiled, but it was rare. Most of the time, she was deep in thought, lost in her own world. But when she did smile, it was like a spark of warmth in the cold. It made Sam feel like there was a side to her that no one else had seen. When Lyra appeared at the corner, Sam waved at her. She smiled briefly and started walking toward him, her crutches clicking lightly against the pavement. As always, Sam stepped forward to meet her, but today was different. She wasn't just walking toward him, she was holding something in her hand. A small glowing object. As she approached, Sam's eyes widened. The object was pulsing with a soft, eerie light, almost like it was alive. He couldn't help but stare at it, feeling a strange pull toward it. "Lyra, what is that?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lyra looked at the object in her hand, then at Sam. For a moment, her eyes seemed to shift, as if she were considering something. Then, without a word, she held it out to him. "It's for you," she said quietly. Her voice soft and distant. Sam hesitated, unsure of what she meant. "For me?" he asked, a little unsure. "Yes," she replied. "It's called a guardian stone. It will protect you when the time comes, but you must keep it safe." Sam took the glowing object in his hand. It was smooth, almost like glass, but warm to the touch. The light coming from it flickered in a rhythm that almost seemed to match his heartbeat. He turned it over in his hand, trying to make sense of what was happening, but nothing made sense. He had known Lyra for months, and yet this was the first time she had given him something so strange, so important. "What's it for?" Sam asked, his voice tinged with curiosity. Lyra paused, her gaze shifting to the horizon. "It's a symbol of trust," she said, her voice quiet. "And it's a promise. You will need it when the time is right." Sam didn't understand. Trust? Promise? What could she possibly mean? But there was something about the stone that made him feel safe. He couldn't explain it, but it felt as if the stone was meant for him and only him. He nodded slowly, tucking the stone into his pocket. They continued their walk to school, but Sam couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Lyra had always been a mystery, but now she had given him a piece of that mystery. And with it, Sam felt a new sense of responsibility, a strange weight in his chest. As the days passed, Sam began to notice something odd happening whenever he wore the stone. It wasn't like any ordinary piece of jewelry. The first time he felt, it was subtle, just a flicker of warmth that spread through his body as he passed by a group of students who had been making fun of him. They immediately stopped, their faces turning from mockery to quiet discomfort. It was as if the stone had some sort of power, some kind of influence over people. The next time, it was even stranger. As Sam sat in class, his eyes drifted to Lyra, who was sitting at the back of the room, staring out the window. The stone, hidden in his pocket, began to pulse again, and suddenly, a wave of calm washed over him. It was like all the stress, all the worry, simply faded away. He could breathe easier, think clearer, as if something was protecting him. But it wasn't just Sam who felt the stone's effects. Every time he was near Lyra, he could sense something about her, a quiet power, like an invisible force surrounding her. It was as if the stone had a connection to her, and maybe, just maybe, to the mystery she had been keeping hidden all along. One afternoon, as they sat under the old oak tree after school, Sam finally asked her again, "Why did you give me this, Lyra? What does it mean?" She looked at him with those strange, glowing eyes of hers and finally spoke, her voice softer than ever. "The stone is more than just a gift, Sam. It's a key to a world you don't know, a world you're meant to be a part of." Sam's heart skipped a beat. What did she mean? What world? What was she trying to say? He wanted to ask her more, to push her for answers, but something in her eyes told him that she wasn't ready to reveal everything. Not yet, but Sam could feel it deep down. This was just the beginning. The stone, Lyra, and the mystery surrounding them were all connected in ways he couldn't yet understand. And as he walked home that night, the weight of the glowing stone in his pocket, Sam knew that his life was about to change forever. Sam had always thought he lived a quiet life, a normal life. But as the days passed since receiving the glowing stone from Lyra, strange things began to happen, things that made him question everything he thought he knew about the world. And about her. It started subtly. At first, it was small things that Sam brushed off as coincidences. One morning as he walked to school, he noticed that the weather seemed to change as soon as Lyra appeared. The sky, which had been overcast and dreary, suddenly cleared up, the clouds parting as if they had no choice but to obey her. Sam had assumed it was just a lucky break, but when it happened again the next day, he felt a strange shiver run down his spine. By now, Sam had started wearing the stone every day, as Lyra had instructed. It wasn't heavy or bulky, but something about it felt important, almost like it was becoming a part of him. And with each passing day, Sam began to notice even more unusual things. People around him acted differently, like they were avoiding him or looking at him in a way he couldn't explain. It wasn't until one particular afternoon, after he and Lyra had spent some time together, that Sam realized something was very wrong. He was walking home, the sun low in the sky, casting long shadows across the pavement. The stone in his pocket pulsed softly, its warmth spreading through him. He thought nothing of it at first, but then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed something. A group of kids from his school, kids who usually ignored him or made fun of him, were standing at the end of the street. They weren't talking or laughing like they usually did. They just stood there, staring. And as Sam walked past them, they all fell silent. He turned his head slightly, wondering if he'd imagined it. The group of kids, there were 4 of them, gazed at him, their expressions strange. For a moment, the world felt very still, and Sam's heart began to race. He could feel the stone in his pocket getting warmer, its pulse matching the quickening of his heartbeat. As he continued walking, the kids didn't move, didn't speak. They just watched him, as though they were waiting for something. Sam turned the corner, feeling a mix of confusion and unease. What had just happened? The kids were no longer the loud, obnoxious group they usually were. It was as if they'd been frozen in time, standing still, waiting for something to change. Later that evening, as Sam sat at his desk trying to focus on his homework, he couldn't shake the strange feeling that had settled in his chest. He stared at the stone on his desk. The soft glow it emitted almost hypnotic. There was something happening, something he couldn't explain, and then it clicked. Every time he was near Lyra, strange things seemed to occur. The weather, the way people acted, the quiet pull he felt when he held the stone, it all felt connected. That night, as Sam lay in bed, trying to make sense of everything, he heard a sound. It was soft, like a whisper, a voice calling his name, Sam. His eyes flew open, heart racing, but there was no one there. He sat up in bed, listening, his ears straining for any other sound. It was silent, except for the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. He shook his head, trying to calm his nerves. He was imagining things, he was just tired. But then, the whisper came again, louder this time, Sam. He stood up quickly, the stone burning hot in his pocket now, as if it were alive. He stepped toward the window, pulling back the curtain. But the street was empty. There was no one in sight. Lyra, he whispered to himself. But no answer came. The next day at school, everything felt different. Lyra was waiting for him by the school gates as usual, but today there was a tension in the air. She was staring off into the distance, her crutches resting on the ground, but she wasn't looking at Sam. She wasn't looking at anyone. She was lost in thought, her eyes distant, her face as unreadable as ever. Sam walked up to her, trying to break the silence. Lyra, he said, his voice unsure. She turned her gaze to him slowly, a flicker of recognition passing across her face, but it wasn't the usual warmth. There was something colder there, something unfamiliar. I'm sorry, Sam, she said quietly, her voice distant, as though she wasn't speaking to him at all. Things are changing. You need to be careful. Careful? Sam repeated, confused. What do you mean? What's going on, Lyra? She shook her head, her crutches tapping lightly against the ground. You've felt it too, haven't you? The way things are shifting. The way people look at you. It's happening. Because of the stone. The power it has, it's starting to wake up. And when it does, you'll be caught in the middle of something much bigger than you ever imagined. Sam's heart skipped a beat. What power? What are you talking about, Lyra? She looked around nervously, as if making sure no one was listening. I can't explain it all right now, Sam, but you need to trust me. The stone is more than just a gift. It's a key to something that could change everything. Before Sam could ask anything else, she turned away, starting to walk toward the school building. He stood there, frozen, the weight of her words sinking in. Things were changing. And Sam knew deep down that he had just crossed a line. He wasn't just helping a girl to school anymore. He was caught up in something far larger than he could ever have imagined. The days following Lyra's warning were a blur for Sam. He couldn't concentrate at school, couldn't focus on anything except a strange feeling that had begun to gnaw at him. The world around him felt different, warmer, somehow, as if everything was shifting just slightly, as though the ground beneath his feet was moving, but he couldn't see it. He spent every waking moment trying to make sense of what was happening. But it only left him more confused. That afternoon, everything changed. After school, Sam was walking home alone, his thoughts swirling. Lyra hadn't spoken to him since their brief exchange in the morning, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, something big. As he walked through the familiar streets, his hand absent-mindedly brushed against the stone in his pocket. The warmth spread through him like fire, and suddenly, without warning, everything around him blurred. It was as if the world itself was distorting. The air felt thick, heavy, and the colors around him began to shift, bending and swirling in unnatural ways. Sam stopped in his tracks, his heart pounding. He reached out to steady himself, grabbing a nearby fence, but it wasn't the fence he expected. Instead, he found himself grasping onto the cold metal of a strange structure, something foreign, something alien. The world snapped back into focus. Sam blinked, his mind reeling as he looked around. He was no longer on his familiar street. He stood in what seemed to be a massive hangar, surrounded by strange, sleek spacecrafts that hovered above the ground, their metallic surfaces glinting under artificial light. His breath caught in his throat as he realized what he was seeing. The stone in his pocket pulsed once more, hotter this time, and Sam realized with a shiver that he was no longer in the world he knew. "Sam," a soft voice called from behind him. He turned to find Lyra standing there, her expression serious and unyielding. Her crutches were gone, replaced by a flowing cloak that seemed to shimmer with light. She looked different, more powerful somehow, and Sam couldn't help but stare in awe. "Where am I?" he managed to ask, his voice shaky. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes meeting his with a quiet intensity. "This is where the truth lies, Sam," she said softly. "This is where you belong." Sam felt a lump form in his throat. "Where I belong? I don't understand. What is this place?" "It's a sanctuary," Lyra replied, her gaze never leaving his. "A place where the strongest minds in the galaxy come together to ensure the safety of all worlds. This is my mother's ship, the core of her power." The weight of her words settled heavily in Sam's chest. His mind raced, trying to comprehend what she had just said. Lyra's mother? What did she mean by the core of her power? Lyra's gaze softened slightly as she saw the confusion in his eyes. She walked closer, placing a hand on his arm, her touch cool but firm. "I know this is overwhelming. I didn't want you to know so soon, but the time has come for you to understand. The stone you carry, it's not just an ordinary object. It's an artifact of incredible power, a relic that can change the fate of entire galaxies." Sam stared at her, his mind whirling. I don't understand. I've been carrying this thing around, and it's just a stone?" Lyra shook her head. "No, Sam, it's more than that. It's a symbol of the ancient power that runs through our family." "My mother's family," she added quickly. "The stone is the key to a balance that has kept the galaxy in order for millennia, and now it's yours." Sam's heart skipped a beat. "Mine? How is this mine? I'm just a normal guy." You don't see it yet," Lyra interrupted. Gently, "but the stone chose you. You were meant to hold it. And in doing so, you've become part of something much bigger." She motioned for him to follow her as she moved toward a large holographic display. The image flickered to life, showing a vast map of stars, planets, and constellations, stretching out as far as the eye could see. "This is the galaxy," Lyra said, her voice quieter now. "The galaxy that my mother rules. She is the queen of the outer worlds, a position of unimaginable power. And you, Sam, are the one destined to help her maintain that power." Sam looked at the map, his mind struggling to keep up with her words. "What does that mean? I'm just a kid. I don't even know what to do with this stone." Lyra's face grew somber, her expression darkening as she pointed to a particular section of the galaxy. "This is where things are starting to go wrong. There are forces out there, Sam. Dark forces that want to take control. Forces that will stop at nothing to steal the power of the stone and use it for their own purposes." Sam felt a chill run down his spine as Lyra's words sank in. "What kind of forces?" "Rebels," she said. "Factions of outlaws and rogue factions, those who have been waiting for the right moment to strike. They've known about the stone, and they've been searching for it for years. But now with you as its bearer, everything has changed. And they're coming for you, Sam." Sam's breath caught in his throat. "Coming for me? Why?" Lyra gave him a sad smile. "Because you are the key. The stone gives you access to powers beyond your understanding, and those who seek it will stop at nothing to control you." Sam stared at her, his mind spinning. This was more than he could handle. How was he supposed to fight against something like this? He was just a kid from Earth, walking a girl to school every day. How did he end up here, in a place so far from everything he knew? Lyra's voice broke through his thoughts. You have a choice now, Sam. You can walk away and live your life as you've always known it. Or you can stand with me and my mother. And together, we can stop this rebellion before it's too late. Sam's mind raced. The weight of his decision was unbearable. But one thing was clear. Whatever choice he made, his life would never be the same again. Sam's head spun as he followed Lyra through the vast halls of the spacecraft. The stone in his pocket burned hotter than ever, its pulsing rhythm matching the racing of his heart. Every step he took seemed to carry him further into a world he didn't belong to, a world of hidden power, ancient secrets, and endless responsibility. Where are we going? Sam asked, his voice shaky. The halls around them seemed endless, stretching out in every direction, filled with strange symbols and alien technology that he couldn't begin to understand. Lyra led the way, her movements confident and purposeful. The heart of my mother's ship, Lyra said, her voice quiet but firm. This is where everything began. They entered a massive chamber, its walls lined with glowing crystals and intricate patterns that shimmered as though they were alive. In the center of the room stood a large, ornate chair, surrounded by floating panels that hovered just inches above the ground. Sam couldn't help but stare, his eyes wide. The room felt like something out of a dream, too grand, too powerful for a normal person like him to comprehend. Lyra walked up to the chair, her steps reverent. She didn't sit in it, but instead placed her hand on the armrest, her fingers brushing against the ancient symbols that were carved into the surface. This is where my mother sits, Lyra said softly, her voice filled with awe. This chair is the throne of the galaxy, the seat of power. It controls everything, every planet, every star, every life. Sam blinked, his thoughts whirling. Your mother is the queen of all this? Lyra nodded. Yes, she has been for as long as I can remember. The throne was passed down through her family for generations, and now it's mine to inherit if I'm ready for it. Ready for what? Sam asked, his voice barely a whisper. I don't understand. What does this have to do with me? Lyra turned to face him, her expression serious. Everything, Sam. You have no idea how much your life is about to change. The stone you carry is more than just a powerful artifact. It's a key to a hidden legacy, a legacy that connects you to my mother's bloodline. Sam's stomach dropped. What? How can I be connected to that? I'm just a normal kid from Earth. I don't belong here. Lyra stepped closer, her gaze soft but unyielding. That's where you're wrong, Sam. The stone chose you because you are a part of this legacy. You may not remember it, but your bloodline is tied to mine. You are one of the last descendants of an ancient race, one that was tasked with protecting the balance of the galaxy. Sam shook his head in disbelief. This doesn't make sense. How could I be a part of something like that? I've never even left Earth before. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she spoke, her voice filled with the weight of ancient knowledge. The bloodline was hidden, Sam. Your family was scattered across different worlds, different galaxies. The legacy was lost for centuries, but the stone kept it safe, waiting for the right person to find it. And that person is you. Sam's thoughts raced. He couldn't process what she was saying. He had been carrying around this glowing stone for weeks, but he never imagined it would lead him here, into the heart of an alien empire, surrounded by secrets and power beyond anything he had ever known. So, what does that mean for me? Sam asked, his voice trembling. What am I supposed to do with all this? Lyra's gaze softened, and she placed a hand on his shoulder. It means that you have a choice, Sam. You can embrace your heritage and help me protect the galaxy. Or you can walk away and return to your old life. But know this, if you walk away, the legacy will be lost forever, and the galaxy will fall into chaos. Sam stared at her, his mind whirling. Everything he had ever known, everything he had ever dreamed of, seemed so far away now. He had always thought of himself as just another teenager, struggling to fit in. But now he was standing in the heart of an alien empire, carrying a stone that was more powerful than anything he could have imagined, and learning that he was tied to a legacy of unimaginable importance. Lyra took a deep breath and continued. My mother's reign is in danger, Sam. There are forces out there, rebels, criminals who want to destroy everything she has built. They want to take control of the throne, of the galaxy itself. And the stone is the key to stopping them. You are the key. Sam swallowed hard. But I don't know anything about this. I'm just a kid. How can I fight against something like that? Lyra's eyes burned with intensity. You don't have to fight alone, Sam. You have me. You have my mother. And you have the stone. But you have to make a choice. The legacy is yours now, whether you want it or not. And with it comes the power to shape the future of the galaxy. For the first time, Sam felt the full weight of the decision ahead of him. He could stay in this strange alien world, accept his place in this hidden legacy, and fight to protect a galaxy he had never known. Or he could walk away, return to Earth, and leave everything behind. But as he stood there, feeling the power of the stone pulsing in his pocket, he realized that walking away was no longer an option. He wasn't just a normal kid anymore. He was part of something far bigger than he could have ever imagined. I'll do it, Sam said quietly, his voice steady despite the uncertainty swirling inside him. I'll help you. Lyra smiled, a look of relief and gratitude washing over her. I knew you would. And just like that, Sam's life changed forever. He wasn't just walking a girl to school anymore. He was about to become a part of the galaxy's most important story, a story of power, legacy, and the future of worlds. Sam stood at the edge of the massive observation deck, looking out over the endless expanse of stars. The ship, a technological marvel of a scale Sam could scarcely comprehend, swept through space like a giant, gliding silently across the cosmos. But despite the beauty of the view, there was an unease growing in Sam's chest. The knowledge that his life had shifted from normal to something far beyond anything he could have imagined weighed heavily on him. Behind him, the low hum of the ship's engine was barely audible, but it didn't comfort him as it once might have. Lyra's words echoed in his mind. The galaxy is in danger, and you're the key to saving it, or letting it all fall apart. She had told him about the forces gathering in the shadows, the rebels, the outlaws who wanted nothing more than to overthrow her mother's reign and claim the throne of the galaxy for themselves. Sam hadn't truly understood the gravity of her words until now. But here, in this vast alien vessel, surrounded by technology and history older than he could even begin to fathom, Sam realized that he was standing on the precipice of something far greater than himself. The enemy was real. The danger was real. And it was coming. His thoughts were interrupted by a sharp beep from the console behind him. He turned, startled, and saw Lyra standing in the doorway of the observation deck, her face set in a grim expression. There was no more mystery in her eyes now, no more uncertainty. Whatever was coming, she was ready to face it. They're here, Lyra said, her voice calm but heavy with resolve. They've made their move. Sam's heart skipped a beat. The rebels? Lyra nodded. The rebellion has been brewing for years, quietly in the background. They've been waiting for the right moment to strike. And now they've found it. Sam swallowed, trying to steady his breath. What do we do now? Lyra stepped toward him, her gaze fierce. We fight. She motioned for him to follow her, leading him down a series of narrow hallways. Sam felt a mix of anxiety and determination rising in his chest. He was no longer the scared, confused teenager he had been just a few days ago. The stone, now safely nestled in his pocket, pulsed with power. He could feel it, like a beating heart against his skin. It was more than just a weapon. It was a part of him, connecting him to something larger, something that was beginning to make sense. As they entered the command center, Sam was immediately struck by the activity. The walls were lined with monitors showing various parts of the galaxy, planets, space stations, and battle fleets. Officers were at their posts, communicating with other ships and planetary defenses. Lyra moved swiftly to the central console, her fingers flying over the keys as she accessed the ship's systems. "Their flagship is just outside our orbit," Lyra said, her voice a low murmur. "If we don't act now, they'll break through our defenses and make their way to the throne." Sam stepped closer, looking at the screen, where a large, imposing vessel appeared. It was sleek, dark, and menacing, a ship that seemed to devour light itself. The insignia on the side was unfamiliar, but it was clear that this was no ordinary rebellion. Whoever these people were, they had resources that could rival the Queen's. "What's our plan?" Sam asked, his voice steadying. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "We fight them back, but we need to act fast. The longer they stay in orbit, the harder it will be to stop them. We'll need to take out their communications first. If we can disrupt their ability to coordinate, they'll be left vulnerable." Sam felt a surge of adrenaline. "So we take down their comms and then we strike," Lyra finished. "But Sam, there's one more thing." Sam looked at her, sensing the weight of her words. "What?" "There's a traitor among us," Lyra said quietly. "Someone inside the Queen's forces who has been working with the rebels." A chill ran down Sam's spine. "A traitor? How do you know?" "I can feel it," Lyra replied, her voice unwavering. "There's someone who has been feeding information to the enemy, someone who wants to see the Queen's reign fall. We need to find them before they can sabotage our efforts." Sam felt the gravity of her words. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined. The fate of the galaxy wasn't just in the hands of an enemy fleet, it was in the hands of someone inside the very walls they were standing in. A traitor could destroy everything, no matter how much power they had on their side. Lyra turned back to the console, her fingers working with precision. "Lyle set up a team to launch a counteroffensive. We'll hit them hard and fast, but we'll need your help, Sam. The stone you carry can disrupt their communications and shield our forces. But you have to focus. You have to use it to its full potential." Sam nodded, a deep sense of purpose growing within him. This was his fight now. He wasn't just a bystander anymore. He was part of something that could change the fate of the entire galaxy. Lyra looked at him, her expression serious. "Stay close to me. We're going to need everything we have to survive this." The ship shook suddenly, a violent tremor that rattled the walls. Sam gripped the console to steady himself. Outside, the rebel flagship had launched its first salvo, and the battle had begun. "Get ready," Lyra said, her voice steady. "This is it." Sam felt a new surge of power, the stone in his pocket thrumming with energy. He wasn't sure what was going to happen next, but he knew one thing for sure. He was no longer just a kid who helped a disabled girl to school. He was a key player in the fight for the galaxy's future, and the enemy would soon learn that they had underestimated him. The battle for the throne was just beginning. The hum of the ship was louder now, vibrating through Sam's chest, matching the pulse of his racing heart. He stood at the heart of the command center, Lyra at his side, both of them staring at the tactical screen that showed the rebel flagship closing in. The galaxy was at war, and Sam's role in this battle was no longer something he could ignore. He was no longer just a kid who carried a mysterious stone. He was the galaxy's last hope. The countdown had begun. In less than 15 minutes, the rebel fleet would enter their orbit, and if they didn't strike first, it would be too late. Lyra had given him no more time for questions. She had no room for doubt. They had a job to do. And Sam wasn't sure. What was more terrifying, the fact that they were about to face an enemy fleet head-on, or that Lyra seemed so certain of everything. It was like she knew exactly how this would end, like she already understood the role he would play in this unfolding drama. The stone in his pocket burned hotter than ever, sending waves of warmth through his body. He had felt it before, the strange pulsing energy it emitted when he was near Lyra, when he was focused, when he needed it most. But now, as the battle raged outside the ship, he could feel it calling to him. He didn't know how, but somehow. He knew it had something to do with his decision, with his power. "This is it, Sam," Lyra said, her voice steady but filled with an urgency Sam had never heard before. "Once we engage, there's no turning back. You need to decide where you stand. If we fail, it won't just be my mother's throne that falls, it will be the entire galaxy. You're not just a part of this story anymore. You're the key to its future." Sam swallowed hard. The weight of her words settled in his chest. This was more than just a fight. This was a defining moment. This was about whether he was ready to embrace the power and responsibility the stone had granted him, or whether he would walk away and let others take control of his destiny. "I don't know if I'm ready," Sam admitted, his voice shaking despite himself. "You don't have to be ready," Lyra replied, her eyes softening. "You just have to make a choice. You've already been chosen." Sam's heart pounded in his chest as he stepped away from the console, moving to the nearest viewport. Through the reinforced glass, he could see the dark silhouette of the rebel flagship, moving closer with every passing second. It was a powerful ship, a terrifying symbol of everything the rebellion stood for. The insignia it bore was one of war, of chaos, of anarchy. But Sam knew something now. He wasn't just going to sit back and watch the galaxy fall apart. He had a role to play, and he wasn't about to let fear or doubt keep him from it. That he turned back to Lyra, his resolve hardening. "I'm ready." Lyra's eyes locked with his, a quiet, unspoken understanding passing between them. She nodded once, sharp and sure. "Good," she said. "Then let's finish this." The ship jolted as the first wave of enemy fire slammed against the shields. Sam could feel the tension in the air, the raw energy of the battle building. The Queen's fleet was ready, but his stone, was the final key to victory. Lyra's hands flew over the controls, activating systems, coordinating their attack. But Sam knew that only he could wield the stone's power. "Sam," Lyra called over the chaos, her voice cutting through the noise. "The communications. Array, they're trying to lock us out. You have to use the stone now. Disrupt their signal. We can't win without it." The stone in his pocket pulsed again, its energy like a living thing. Sam's fingers closed around it, and he closed his eyes, willing himself to focus. He had no idea how it worked. All he knew was that the stone was more than just a key to the galaxy's power. It was a weapon. It was his weapon. He held it up, letting the warmth flow through him. For a moment, he felt nothing. Then, all at once, the ship's systems came alive, the hum of energy shifting, aligning with the stone's pulse. The communications array flickered, static buzzing over the console. "It's working," Sam thought, but the thought was fleeting, replaced by a rush of exhilaration. The stone was responding to him, reacting to his will. Lyra was watching him closely, her eyes bright with a mix of anticipation and urgency. "Keep it focused, Sam. Don't let it slip." Sam concentrated. Harder, pushing the stone's energy into the array. He could feel the ship's defenses strengthening, the rebel communications scrambling. The flagship's signals began to break apart, their ability to coordinate splintering. The battle was changing, turning in their favor. Then with one final surge, the stone flared. The enemy fleet's command center went dark, their main communications disrupted. Lyra's team seized the opportunity, launching a coordinated attack that hit the rebels where it hurt. The tide of the battle had shifted. "We have them," Lyra said, her voice full of relief. "It's done." Sam lowered the stone, breathing hard, his hands shaking. The fight wasn't over yet, But they had won a crucial battle. He had made his choice, but as Sam looked at Lyra, he realized that the real battle was just beginning. The stone had given him power, but it had also made him a target. The galaxy would never be the same again. And neither would he. Lyra looked at him.